At issue today is a repair that is necessary on our farm-style porcelain kitchen sink. Recently, an item was dropped near the back edge, causing this chip to occur. Some people would probably choose to throw this out and spend several $100s on a new sink. Others may choose to just live with it, but let me show you how I did this repair. It all started with a kit I ordered off Amazon, the link of which I will post for you in the description section of this video. This is a two-part white epoxy paint chip fix kit. This manufacturer is not a sponsor. I began by carefully slicing open the container, as I will have to reuse the cover. There are 3 parts to the contents plus the cover. The instructions are printed on the back in very small lettering. Before mixing the contents, it is necessary to do a bit of prep work. The instructions call for the use of sandpaper to smooth the edges of the chip. No particular grit is specified, so we chose 220 grit sandpaper and this small block of wood. The sandpaper is cut long enough to wrap around the edges because I'm going to use the edge of the block of wood to focus my pressure on the edges of the chip. Try your best to take the edge off the chip all the way around and create a smooth transition from the white to the gray. Also sand the gray area so the epoxy has a physical place to bond. Use a damp Scotch-Brite pad and go over the entire area. Then wipe away dust with a damp paper towel. Back at the table, I laid down a backer board to protect against spills as we prepare to mix the epoxy paint. Begin by opening the white container and dumping the contents into what used to be the cover and is now the mixing tub. Follow this by pouring in the hardener. The instructions state the mixture should be stirred for 60 seconds. I began by using a toothpick, but that just didn't work, so I switched to using the small paintbrush, and that worked much better. The directions also call for letting the epoxy set for 30 minutes at room temperature once both bottles are mixed and stirred. The manufacturer states that you should pour out only what you need for the first coat and put the remainder in the freezer. I located a water bottle cap for this part. The remainder of the paint in the tub can be used for up to 6 hours, but must be thawed 10 minutes before use, after being removed from the freezer. My original thought was to show you how to smooth the painted surface with this zip tie. I had planned to put pressure on either side and let the center part glide over the epoxy to create a smooth surface, but this was not necessary. Let me show you why. I located a pair of gloves to match my shirt and moved the cap containing the epoxy into position. One of the cautionary steps I wish to impart to you is that you shouldn't worry about trying to cover up the gray color with the first coat. The manufacturer talks about using thin coats, which I did not do here. You can see that I was dipping the brush, then dabbing it on the chipped surface, thinking I would only need 1 coat. I should have been lightly brushing it on and preparing for multiple coats. Anyways, you get the idea, so let's speed up a bit. One other important thing to note is that if too much epoxy is applied, it will have a tendency to sag and run after a while, even though it cured for 30 minutes in the tub. If your chip is on top of the sink, this is not an issue, but this is one more reason to use thin coats. Also, what I learned was that the epoxy tends to find its own level. For this reason, there was no use for me to use the zip tie to try and smooth out the surface. Even after 20 minutes, this is what happened. Well, I get to use the zip tie after all. Runs are easily removed with a damp paper towel. I removed the tub from the freezer and let it sit for 10 minutes, then used the brush to stir the mixture. Between coats, clean the brush with lacquer thinner or your wife's nail polish remover. Note how the epoxy has settled, revealing part of the gray color once again. After learning my lesson on the first coat, this time I brushed on a thinner layer instead of dabbing on a thick coat. Once again, let's speed through this part because I'm sure by now you get it. This shot takes place 20 minutes later. No runs, no sags, and no need for a third coat. Although the finish is nice and bright and a shade lighter, after fully curing for 24 hours, it may dry a shade darker. If not, it is still almost unnoticeable, especially at a distance. Note, for example, the before and after shots. There was enough of this product to do a much larger area or multiple chips. In closing, I would in fact recommend this product. Follow the directions closely for a nice repair job, and this project is complete.